Welcome back to another episode of Break Out of the Matrix, and this episode is different than anyone I've ever done before because I have the most special and important guest ever here, and it is my boyfriend, Marcos.
Hello, hello.
So the Boyfriend Reveal podcast is something that people have been wanting me to do for so long, and I guess I want to start the conversation of why I've waited so long to start the podcast. And have you on the podcast or on my social media. And I feel like a lot of my friends were like, Giulia, like, why aren't you posting your boyfriend and things like that? And I just felt like, I don't know, like it was just such a sacred part of my life. And I feel like I share so much of my life on social media already. And this is something that we talked about together. And I obviously wanted to respect how you felt about being on my social media, like being on such a big platform, and also the fact that, like, when we started dating, I did not have this big platform.
No, you had 0 followers. 0. I think I was the first follower.
So you were actually the first person that followed me on TikTok.
Yeah.
And that was kind of crazy to see because so much in my life was happening so fast. And if you guys have been listening for a while now, you know a lot about my story. And so many things happened for me in 2021, which is when we started dating. So I want to set the tone and like the foundation of like how we met, how we started dating, and I'm going to let Marcos tell you guys that part.
She did not. That was not part of the script.
And by the way, there was no script for this episode. Marcos is the one who said, Giulia, there's no script. We're just going to do it on a whim. He's an on a whim person. I'm a planner.
You're welcome.
Okay, so tell the story from your lens, your perspective.
So we met 6 years ago. 6 years, actually, yes, a little over 6 years ago. We met freshman year of college. She moved in across the hall from me at UMass. Did they know you went to UMass?
Now they do.
Okay, well, exposed. At UMass, we met. She moved in across the hall from me freshman year, and we knew each other in passing, and then we were friends, kind of like on and off. I would say towards the end of college, we kind of talked a little bit more because of entrepreneurship and business, and you got into, I don't know if you were really like an entrepreneur, but you were like interested in being a creator in like 2020, like pre-COVID. And I had been one of the only people, I would say, in our friend group. Mm-hmm. Like it was like a big, so we were in Greek life, so it was like a big like friend groups. Mm-hmm. But I was probably one of the only ones that was interested in like creating or more so entrepreneurship. So we talked about that a little bit in passing. And then I would say after COVID is when, again, we rekindled over business. I think we were talking about, you were doing like an influencing deal, and we were just talking over stories and Snapchat. And then I honestly don't know exactly how it happened, but I think I slid into the DMs. So basically,
I knew he was trying to keep that part out.
I know exactly what happened. So basically she did like an influencing deal. It was like, use my code. Obviously, I used the code, and I was like, oh, like I actually need. I don't want to do this. Name drop. So she did like these blue light glasses influencing deal, Baxter Blues, and I was like, oh, I need blue light glasses. I did need blue light glasses, to be honest. I didn't need $100 blue light glasses, but so I used her promo code for Baxter Blues, and that's kind of how I like slid in, and then I just kind of kept the conversations going. One thing led to another. We started talking like every day over business because we were both at a point where we were really early, like infants in business and entrepreneurship, creating, and then that's kind of how we bonded, and then next thing you know, started dating.
And I will add in my sprinkles of the story that were really important parts to me was when we first started talking, like we were always friends. So I knew that like I felt comfortable like texting you and Snapchatting you. And I think because we were friends before, like I was so comfortable to like text you about entrepreneurship and those kind of things. And I actually remember one time in college when I was interested in learning about credit, because I was always interested in personal finance. I remember texting him because I really looked up to him, and he was super knowledgeable. He was in the entrepreneurship space way before I was. So I remember I would like just look up to you and be like, hey, like, you know, I want to start learning more about credit. Like, is there someone you recommend? And you were like, yeah, at credit.
Yeah.
You're like, I bought his course. I'll give
Yeah.
you my password. And that's when I started learning about online courses. And I was like, thanks. So, like, we always kind of talked about that kind of stuff. And then when I started taking entrepreneurship more seriously, and I didn't know he was sliding in my DMs to try to talk to me, and I just figured we were still, friends. Like, we had a lot in common and a lot of values and same interests. And then we started talking a lot. And then I remember, I don't even know how it happened, but we're like, let's FaceTime. And it was New Year's Eve. And I remember that year I was staying in for New Year's, and Marcos is in the military. So you want to talk about DC and the FaceTime?
The FaceTime?
The FaceTime. The New Year's Eve FaceTime.
This is so, oh my Jesus. All right, so I was in DC for the inauguration. I'm on the last couple of months of my military contract. I joined when I was 19. I'm 24. I'm about to be out. But basically, I was in DC for the inauguration for a couple of months. And we were talking about business because my actual job was business and entrepreneurship, but I'm also part-time in the military. So basically, we FaceTimed over, what were we talking about? We were like, we were doing vision boards. Mm-hmm. That's what we were bonding over, vision boards. So it's not a joke. She actually was doing vision boards before she even was doing social media. I forget what it was. It was like this long vision board booklet that we both did, and I basically did one. And then
I forgot about that part, actually.
Yeah, we basically were like, okay. So I had a curfew, so I was back by 11. And we basically were bonding over the fact that we were going to stay in on New Year's and do our vision boards. New Year's, new us. This was the year that we make it, all this stuff.
So cheesy. You're probably dying on the inside.
Yeah. So then we did the vision boards. Was that the same night? So then we watched was the movie that night?
No, the movie was a couple months later.
Was it months?
Yeah, February.
All right, I'm going to wait then because I don't want to skip to it.
So you don't want to skip to the movie part. But I remember we were on FaceTime, and the FaceTime was earlier than 11 because we were on the phone for many hours.
Yeah.
And I remember it being I want to go watch the ball drop with my mom.
Oh.
So a lot of you guys know that I'm obviously into signs and things like that. So earlier that year, I had declared my sign as a butterfly, and he didn't know about the butterfly. And I said, I know when I see a butterfly, this is going to be my person. This is the right relationship for me. And as we're about to hang up on the FaceTime, I look up on my TV screen, and Netflix was idle, and there was flashing pictures, and I saw a butterfly. And I remember just having full body chills, and especially I wasn't going to tell you that the first time we FaceTimed. And especially I forgot that we were talking about vision boards and all that kind of stuff. So it's so many things were just so aligned. And then I remember just it felt 5 minutes, and we were on the phone for 2 or 3 hours on FaceTime.
You told me that day, you were tell me to remind you about the butterfly a year from now. So I was okay, I'll set a reminder for a year. And then 2 months later, she told me about the butterfly. Not even 2 months. I would say a month later, you told me about the butterfly.
Yeah, I couldn't hold it in.
No.
Because I had seen it a few more times. So then that's what happened. That was the first, I think, initial spark when I was okay, I think I'm kind of into him, because I always just thought we were friends. I think Marcos thought differently, but I just was I think we're just friends. And I just enjoyed, I was pursuing something, but I wanted to be at the right time. I was willing to wait, and I wasn't in a place where I felt I was trying to control anything for once in my life. And I was just so open-minded and so willing to let things unfold the way that they were meant to be. And then we come into the new year, and then the funniest part was when we were talking for months. I was living in Long Island at my mom's house. I hadn't even moved out yet. And Marcos was in DC, and then he went back home to his parents' house. And I remember when you wanted to come to New York. So you want to talk about that?
I wanted to come. You skipped the movie.
Was the movie after New York or before?
No, well before. I was still in DC.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically,
he wants to talk about the movie.
So basically, we were FaceTiming one night, and I was let's watch Inception. One thing you don't know about her is that it's really hard for her to commit to movies and TV shows and anything long form. So she doesn't watch movies. I have to force her to watch most movies, like The Man from Toronto and stuff like that.
We love that movie on Netflix if you guys haven't watched it yet.
It's really hard for her to commit to movies. She doesn't like most genres, so she loves a good rom-com. But anyway, I tried to get her to watch Inception. Not a good choice for her first serious movie. Anyway, we were an hour and a half in, and she just was my friends want to go out. So she's So she leaves. She literally like hangs up the like. She's like, all right, bye, and like she hangs up the phone and goes out with her friends while we're like, I was like having like a romantic FaceTime movie session. So that's the movie story.
All right, you have to play hard to get sometimes.
Yeah, and then the New York. So basically, wait, what did you want to talk about in New York?
So after the movie, then we were talking like more, and I really felt like I was falling for you, but I almost wasn't sure, and I was scared, and I like had my guard up. And then you said to me, you're like, I think I want to come to New York. And I said, oh, are you looking to solo travel?
We had made this joke about solo
right
travel.
over my head.
Yeah, because she was big on this whole solo travel thing, decompressing, like learning about yourself, that stuff. And I was like, oh, I want to solo travel. This is like the same as the Baxter. Maybe I'm just clever. But basically, I pinned it as solo travel. Eventually, before I even came, we kind of talked about it. We're like, yeah, this isn't solo travel. This is a date. But like, I decided to go to New York. This is the first time we had seen each other since college.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm just going to go to New York, and we're going to it was Valentine's Day weekend. I was like, we're going to have a good Valentine's Day weekend.
Oh, wait, that's the best part, that he planned his solo travel Valentine's Day weekend.
Yeah.
And asked me to meet up.
Before I got there, we knew that it wasn't solo travel. We had cleared it up that it was obviously like a romantic weekend. And then one thing led to another. Next thing you know, we're in New York City together. This is after D.C.
And he came to pick me up at my mom's house on Long Island.
I drove from New Hampshire all the way to, because I lived in New Hampshire at the time. Drove from New Hampshire to New York, or to Long Island, and to New York City, and then we spent the weekend literally down the street from Financial District. And then we spent the weekend together, and then we were together ever since.
And you want to talk about the flowers.
Okay, so the flowers. So I obviously needed to get her Valentine's gift, first impressions. So I actually saw an influencer that I like a lot get them, the Venus of flowers, the ones that last like a year. So I was like, oh, he got them for his girl. I'm going to get them for my girl. Naturally. So expensive, like $400. $400 I did not have to spend. So I was going to get the smaller ones, but I was like, you know what, all out, like, I thought about it like an investment, honestly. I was like, you know what, this is an investment. I'm going to get ROI on this. So I went and I got the $400 big, the ones you guys have seen a million times, flowers from Venus of Flora. I actually ordered them to my house in New Hampshire and then hid them in my trunk because I was ashamed or embarrassed that my parents would see that I bought $400 flowers for a girl that I haven't seen in a year. So this was...
No, in many years. I don't even know the last time I saw you.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe over a year. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what got into it. I'm very impulsive. I have no idea what got into me. The timing was... I
didn't mind.
This was terrible timing. I didn't even know what I was doing. But, I took a shot because I feel like sometimes the universe does not care about your timing.
He said it, not me.
So anyways... I drove to New York and I gave her the flowers, and they just so happened to be the flowers that were on her vision board. And no, I didn't know they were on her vision board. So that was crazy.
And that was the best part, because now that I think about it, we were doing vision boards together.
Yeah.
But I don't think I sent you mine.
No, this was the picture of like the vision board. We did like the vision booklet.
Yeah, we did some like...
We were writing our goals and stuff like that, but it wasn't like picture form like this one.
So that was actually kind of cool, look, more foreshadowing. But I just remember him telling me, like, Julia, this was an investment. And it's like that moment I'll remember forever. I still have the flowers. And yeah, that was a really special moment. So we started dating. And then, like I said, like so many things happened so fast. And this was when, like, I started, like, going viral. And I remember, like, he would celebrate all of my wins.
It gets hard after a while. I was doing, like, I would go on Canva and make her, like, PDF congratulation cards for, like, milestones. But when it gets to a point where there's too many milestones.
Oh.
So.
And, okay, there's something outside. But that was really special and important to me. And this is actually a point that I wanted to bring up before, was that I remember, like, even when you were like, oh, I'm going to come to Long Island, I'm going to come pick you up, and then you would make those Canva little, like, graphics, little, like, emoji things, and I was like, oh, my God, like, you're going above and beyond. You would tell me, like, Julia, this is the bare minimum. And I remember just these feelings of, like, wow, like, everything I've ever wanted is really out there and really true. and it's like feels better than I could have ever imagined.
Well, she started it because when I was in DC, like you remember you sent me like a Starbucks gift card for my birthday, and it was the only birthday gift I received that year, and it was like really special because she went above. This was when we were just friends, I think. I don't know what it was like from her perspective, but I think she was flirting. She doesn't like to admit it. She sent me a $25 Starbucks gift card, and because she had known that I've been having Starbucks like every single day, and I had a bad coffee addiction. I still do. So
he got me into it.
Yeah, and I remember telling all my friends, like, oh, she sent me like a Starbucks gift card. Like, this is real. I remember this, but she started it, and then I finished it, so.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that was, oh my God, that was like, it feels like so long ago, and especially because like we were at two totally different places in our lives, and something that I really want to emphasize, and especially for anyone listening, that if you're in a place where you feel like, you know, I don't know what I want, I'm not ready yet, like the best, or like, you know, maybe you've been dating and maybe you feel like your person doesn't even exist. Like, I'm here to tell you that like it does exist, and trust your timing, because I definitely understand why now a lot of things in my past didn't work out, or why things happened the way they did. Like when I wanted to move to New York City, but then I was stuck at home because of COVID and I was in debt, like so many different things. And now it's like every single thing led me up to this moment and led us up to this moment. And even when I first met you was because I moved next door to you our freshman year, was because I had like a falling out with my roommate my first semester of college. And for anyone who's been to college, you know that first, especially girls, like that first semester, you're like trying to make friends, you're maybe joining Greek life, you're doing all these things. And I remember feeling my life was over, because I was like, oh my God, you know, I have to switch dorms in the middle of the freshman year, like this is so terrible, and now look where it ended up. So it's like everything does happen for a reason, and really just like lean in and trust. And I think that's also a little bit of a base for what has happened since we first started dating. Like when we first started dating, you were saying like, I can't even afford, you know, these flowers, but it's an investment. And look at how much we've done since then. Like we travel, we live a nice life. Like we're really like in this like vortex of abundant energy. And I've no doubt that it's because we feed off of each other, which kind of goes into, and you guys asked a ton of questions, so I definitely want to get into those questions, but really feeds into, you know, us both being entrepreneurs. And really for me, like, and I'll let Marco speak to his own experience, but for me, I knew what I wanted, and I knew that I wanted somebody that I could live this kind of life with. But I also wanted somebody where I felt like we were growing together, and I felt like we were going to be like sounding boards for each other. We were going to be growing together. We were going to be building something together, and that's so important, and I know to the both of us, because we're both entrepreneurs. We're both obsessed with business. Like we're both obsessed with building a beautiful life, giving back. Like our bigger vision is really more for like impact, and that's why we want to build wealth together. So a lot of you have asked, like, how does he support you in entrepreneurship? So I think let's go into talking about us being entrepreneurs and what that's been like.
Well, I think something we both had in common since the beginning is we both have always had a money is abundant, like money is abundant, but we've had this like abundant energy mindset. And because money is abundant, we've always known that whatever you put out is going to come back tenfold. And I've had this mindset since I was like 14. Like I've always spent money just with no regret, because I know the money's going to come back to me in some way. Maybe it's the way I was raised, or maybe it's just who I am. But I've always thought that money would come back to me, 10x to what I put out into the world. And I think that's what led me into entrepreneurship, I think naturally. But yeah, I think there was a question specifically. But I think it's easy for us to support each other because we live very similar lives when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. So in terms of schedules and understanding, we always understand when someone's busy, and we know that our schedules can get packed, and like we have kind of a routine at this point. So I guess we can't speak to a entrepreneur and traditional work relationship, because we're very much an entrepreneur relationship. we are like different businesses, and one day we would like to work together and like do something together. But at the moment, since we do live separate lives with separate businesses, I think we've just come to understand that we live the same life, just with different niches, different industries. So we basically have the same schedule, which maybe that helps because we both start at pretty much the same time and end at pretty much the same time and have breaks at pretty much the same time. So we both understand that. And we also both are pretty shameless when it comes to like interrupting the other person. So like neither of us we don't feel like we're bothering each other. Like maybe we know we're bothering each other, but like if she has an hour break and I'm busy, she doesn't care. She's going to call me. And hope I answer, and if I don't, whatever. And then and vice versa. Yeah, and vice versa. We don't like we might annoy each other in that sense, but we're pretty shameless, and I think that also helps. So like it's not one of us like wondering if we should call the other person. You know what I mean? It's not like that kind of relationship. It's very much a shameless like naggy relationship, and sometimes
we bicker.
Yeah, a lot.
So, and I think one thing that's really coming to mind for me is like how much we complement each other because of how different we are. And we're so different with the same values. That's how I always think about it.
I would agree. I think we're like polar opposite people with essentially the same values and the same vision and the same interests.
Yeah.
So
I love it. Okay, so now I want to kind of go into the Q&A because the questions are really good. So you guys asked a lot of them. I also just put something on my story, so I'm going to see if more came in. But, okay, so this is kind of what we talked about before, which I also want to add on to. So someone said, how do you balance your schedule as entrepreneurs? Can you give us specifics? So what about if we talk about, like, how we prioritize, like, dating, how we turn off, like, the on and off switch between business and personal life, things like that?
Well, I think it's unrealistic to have an off switch for the most part. Like, when business is your life and creating is your life, and like, because don't think of business, like when you start a business and you're an entrepreneur, like it's not your job anymore, it's your life. And you don't start businesses that you're not interested in. So if you're interested in the business that you're starting, you're providing value and you're pushing something you want to push out into the world, if you're an artist or a business person or a creator, you're doing something you love. So naturally, the only thing you're going to want to talk about is what you love. So there's really not too much of an off switch. We do try to put like off switch on the businessy, like back end part of it. But in terms of like vision and goals and stuff like that, like it really never turns off. We do have moments where we're like, all right, let's just like stop talking about that, like anything related, and that's usually like nighttime, like going to bed, or maybe like sometimes we'll have a dinner or something where we're like no business. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's very difficult to put an off switch, and that's just the reality behind it.
And I think a lot of it comes back to the fact that it's like that is our like passion and that is our values, right? So I think sometimes like when people go to work and they think like, oh, I'm going to come home and talk about other things, like we don't feel like that because like we do something that we love. And something that you really helped me with is understanding that like being a creator, it's like your business is your life and it's kind of hard to separate. And of course you have to set healthy boundaries, but I think you were the person to really tell me that you're like, no, you're like you being a creator and you being a creative and an influencer on that end, it's like this is your life and your business. It overlaps so much.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So the next one is, how do you bring out the best in each other? You first.
Yeah, of course. How do we bring out the best in each other? I would say we bring out the best in each other by, we have a lot of, like we said, we're polar opposite people, which means a lot of my strengths are her weaknesses and vice versa. I would say things that I'm weak at are prioritization, hard work.
I don't necessarily agree with that. You're very hardworking.
Let's see. Let me finish. Organization. Those are the main things, and I would say the things that you're not great at are...
He's just calling me out.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to be specific here. The things that you're not great at would be sticking with an idea and relieving of yourself of the self-doubt, comparing yourself to others, a lot of the things that have to go into the psychological aspect of business, I'm great at. And I guess that leads me into the fact that my main business for the past 4 years has had to do with day trading and finances and stuff like that, where psychology is a very big part. So I guess that's something that's helped me. Maybe the military has helped. So I think that's a lot of her weaknesses, whereas she's really good at business, sales, creating content, speaking, hard work, prioritization, organization, time management.
At least your list is longer than the negatives.
Yeah, so she's good at pretty much everything that is related to business, and I think that's why when we met, I had more experience in business, but she surpassed me in so many ways. I think she's a natural at a lot of those things.
Aw, that's sweet.
Yeah.
All right, but don't dull your shine. Now I'm going to expose you. And this is what I love about Marcos, what I love about you, is that he'll call me out on my bullshit. And it's really difficult for me to find friends or even in past relationships where people are going to just call me out. And I know it's I have that kind of energy where I'm usually the one doing that. You guys know how I am. I'm a mentor, I'm a coach. This is what I do. So I'm used to calling people out, giving the tough love. And it's in a relationship, that is something that I wanted, because you don't want to be around people all the time that are yesing you to death. You want to be around people that can say this is your weakness. How can you work on it? How can you get better? How can you be better? Because I think both of us individually are always striving to be better, but how can you be a better partner? And Marcos is dulling his shine. Marcos is very successful, and he is, I think what is the best qualities in you is that he can be so neutral, whereas I am very I'm either really strongly positive or really strongly negative, depending on what the situation is, but he really can be neutral. And I think that's why you've been so successful in trading and building your businesses and building your brand, is because you don't really get affected. You never get too high on the highs and too low on the lows. And it's I think because I understand abundance and celebrating your wins and letting that multiply, I get really high on the highs, which can really sometimes be difficult for me when there's low moments. Why are you laughing?
No, I was just thinking back to I'm just laughing. No, don't worry about it. I just think a lot of people will mistake me. They'll look at me and they'll be or I've been told this a million times, you're emotionless, or that's pretty much what a lot of people have told me. But for the most part, I just try to stay nuanced and neutral for a lot of things, because most things in life are nuanced and gray area, and not everything has such black and white answers. And I think for everyone watching that's in business, the most important thing to know is that there's most of the time it's not this or that, it's something in the middle. So if you get too focused on this or that, you're going to be searching for the answer forever. But in reality, you could just get the experience and you'll find that the answer was always in the middle in the first place. So if you just stay neutral, you'll find your way for the most part.
And I think that's where we balance each other out, because I bring more color and I bring more of that excitement, and I bring that to you and you bring to me kind of to recenter me and realign me back.
I forgot what the question was. What was the question?
I know, me too. How do you balance your schedules as entrepreneurs? Can you give specifics? So we went on a tangent.
That was the question?
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about it. The way we balance our schedules is that we have the same schedule, first of all. She wakes up most of the time before me, because you set an alarm and I don't. I believe in waking up naturally. I wake up.
He's not a planner, I told you. And I'm planning by the hour.
I wake up, yeah, exactly. I wake up very naturally. I've gotten better at this, but I wake up very naturally. I, have my coffee. I do have a morning schedule and journal, just like her. And then for the most part, I'll plan what I have to do for the day, and then just kind of make sure I get those things done, and then wing it after 1 p.m. I know, the horror, but
winging it.
Well, and it's most important, because in terms of productivity, you want to get your most important things done first, and you want to do your most creative things first. And you can really only make a few good key decisions a day. It's proven. So I believe in really having a great morning and a great start to your day, and the rest of the day will kind of ripple effect into it. Because a lot of times when you're doing things important in the morning, you'll find things to do in the afternoon. That's just kind of how I see it. But my days usually end at like 6. So we'll wake up, we'll say good morning, whatever, just over text or whatever. We'll both have good mornings. Sometimes we'll talk in the middle of the day, like lunchtime, because we both have lunchtime around the middle of the day, and we both like to go on walks living in New York City. So we'll do a call, catch up in the middle of the day for the most part, and then we'll go and tackle our second half of the day, and then the end of the day we'll either talk, or if we're hanging out or like going on a date or doing something, have an event, whatever, we'll do that. I say we see each other probably like 1 to 2 times during the weekdays, and then we always see each other on the weekends. And that's essentially our schedule. It's pretty cut and dry once you actually say it out loud.
Yeah.
But we travel a lot, so
let's talk about
hard.
that. That's not one of the questions, but I want to talk about it. Let's talk about like lifestyles and similar visions, because I know, like, especially when I was like, you guys know, like I was manifesting this relationship for so long, and I knew exactly what I wanted. And it's like sometimes I was talking about this with somebody. It's like putting a face to everything you've ever wanted. That's how I feel with Marcos. But that was so important to me, that we could travel all the time and we could like take a day off on a Wednesday. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. And I think you're more leaned into that. And I had a lot of unlearning to do when I quit my 9 to 5.
So a secret about me is I've never had a real 9 to 5. My first job was
Sub shop.
It was a sub shop / diner. I was buttering toast in the mornings, and I would cut steak and cheeses in the afternoon. That was in high school. And then I went to college for a year, and then I joined the military when I was 19. So that was like my part-time gig. It kind of paid my way through college.
And to fund your business.
Yeah. Well, I was a soccer referee, and then by the time I graduated college, I was already a full-time entrepreneur, so I never really had a job. So I never really learned the 9 to 5 mindset, so I didn't have to unlearn it, whereas she has had to unlearn it and still sometimes has to unlearn the 9 to 5 mindset. Giulia grew up in a very business, hardworking family. Both of her parents are successful entrepreneurs, but if you're an entrepreneur and you're watching, you know that it's not a 9 to 5. When you're an entrepreneur, it's more than that. It's 6 to 6.
24/7.
Yeah, it's 6 to 6. It's 24/7. So naturally, you're an extremely hard worker, but sometimes you overwork.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But will I ever get better?
So what was the original question? I lost my train of thought.
Our visions, our life visions, and being entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So
wanting the same things and schedules, yeah.
So something that I didn't do before meeting you, but once we got together, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, is have someone, a life partner to travel with while you do business. Laptop, lifestyle, digital nomad. I quickly realized that it's very difficult to be a digital nomad. Me personally, I work best from my quiet little desk, computer,
Herman Miller
multiple monitors.
His bougie setup.
And it's very difficult to work from a laptop at a cafe, like they say on Instagram. So I could do like menial tasks from cafes and stuff, but when it comes to like creative work, it gets very difficult. It does help like get some noise canceling headphones and stuff like that.
But
that's
especially
not the point.
With trading,
yeah,
that's mostly why.
Yeah. In general, just business, like having multiple monitors and having all my productivity apps and everything, it's a lot harder to do from a laptop. Anyways, I've always wanted to have a life partner to travel with. So that's something we heavily exercise, and I would say it's definitely a part of my dream life, which is traveling whenever we want and being able to, we do work when we travel for the most part. I would say every time we travel, we've done some work, maybe not Aspen.
I was working my 9 to 5.
Oh, yeah.
I was working remote.
I forgot about that. So in our first year together, we traveled like 6 places or something like that.
What was your favorite place we traveled to?
London. Of course. London.
So you're going to pick that one.
London is the
Why?
best. Because I'm an Arsenal fan.
There we go.
I'm an Arsenal fan, so.
Like die hard.
So
Arsenal
London,
fan.
there's a game at 12:30 today. It's London, then Aspen. I loved Aspen. I want to go back to Aspen because I had a knee issue, so we weren't able to ski together or snowboard. But I want to go back and ski. Aspen was amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, in our dream life, we want to be able to travel often. So that's something we talk about often is, mapping out our dream life and putting it on paper and seeing how we want to do it together.
Well, we're planning right now my birthday trip.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Do you want to add any questions?
No, I guess I'm rocking with it.
Okay. What TV show do you guys watch together?
We watched the big ones. We watched You. What's the other show that we watched together?
Forgot?
Yeah.
Ozark.
Yeah.
Oh,
You,
God.
Ozark. Those are the big two. Ozark's over. You's coming back. We don't watch too many TV shows. Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
He low-key loves the Kardashians.
I grew up watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians with my mom, so that's cheating. I was trying to get her into some older shows, but like I said, it's very difficult to get her to commit to a show. I don't know why.
Because you could do so many other things than watch a show.
I'm not that big of a TV show guy unless it's continuation into something that I've already been watching, which is why the only shows I watch now are something that I've always watched, like the House of Dragons or like She-Hulk, which is Marvel. I'm a big Marvel guy.
He's a big he got me into Marvel a little bit.
A little bit. So I haven't really gotten into like new big shows, but we watched a couple of shows. I think if another big show, like we watched the popular ones to keep up with the times as natural creator people.
Yeah. Pop culture, is that what it's called?
Pop culture, yeah, sure. Creator economy. But that's it, basically.
Yeah. I don't love TV shows and movies. I think you could do so many other things.
Yeah. Well, she watches shows that I don't like to watch by herself.
I like watching the same show over and over again. My mom is always like, Julia, you never watch new things. I just love watching the same things that I know I like.
Or like, yeah, Friends.
Or
Sex
in the City.
Sex in the City. You watch Manifest.
I love that show.
You watch those romance movies and shows that I don't. I let her watch any drama, romance stuff by herself. I don't subscribe to that.
Okay, next question. Did your manifestation goals change when you met him and align more to his? So this is a good question. I guess this is for me, and you can let me know if you think that you agree with this. I feel like my manifestation goals adapted a little bit because, like I said, I've always been the kind of person, if you can't tell by now, that like when I want something, I go after it, and I'm willing to change the plan but never the goal. And, you know, I think it's like we want similar things while still having our own independence, where it's like it comes back to those like bigger values. Like we want to travel, we want to give back, we want to do nonprofit work, we want to build generational wealth, we want to build brands. Like we're both on the same page about that. And I think when we first met, I thought that I would at least be at my job for like 5 years. Like I had no idea I was going to quit my job that fast. But like I said, 2021 was my year of like massive, massive expansion, and everything happened so fast. Like we started dating, I moved into my apartment. You were looking at places to start moving out, and now he lives in Brooklyn. So that just reminded me, we did long distance like the whole first year. And I don't think many people know that. And I think that had its own challenges, but it never felt like it was limiting. And I think it's because we actually used that time to travel. And that's why we traveled so much, because we were like, if we're going to travel to see each other, why don't we just travel to some other destination together? And that's why we traveled so much in the first year.
It didn't really feel like long distance because I was only 4 hours away anyways. So between being only 4 hours away and traveling so much, it didn't feel like long distance. We definitely went through some of the challenges, but it was never like, we never went in a whole year, we never went more than 2 weeks without seeing each other. I think there was only 2 times, and it was once when you went to Italy and once when I went away. But other than that, we never really went too long without seeing each other.
Yeah.
So we didn't have like the 6 months apart type long distance challenges as a normal long distance relationship.
Yeah, and I feel like back to the question about manifestation goals, I think the only goals that really changed for me was that I wanted to be more of like a digital nomad, and I wanted to sell everything and just go travel the world for like 2 years. And I think it's almost better because like he said, he's in the military right now, so we can't leave and go somewhere for like months on end. But when his contract is up, we've talked about like, oh, should we go live in Europe for a year, go do things like that. And I think your stance on that kind of shifted my perspective in a good way. And I think at first I was kind of like upset because I wanted to do that. When I studied abroad, it was like an amazing experience. But I do kind of agree with like our bigger goals, like building successful businesses, like, rocking at the 7-8 figure level, like that's not going to happen if we take 2 years off right now and go travel the world. And I think that's more of a priority for us. So I think that's really the only thing that changed for me for the better.
Yeah, I think, like I said before, the digital nomad lifestyle is very specific, and if you're trying to build some sort of big brand, big business, hit certain figures, it's difficult to just take a year off. And as much as it sounds like it's not a year off because you're overseas, but the time is completely backwards. Like, good luck trying to do sales calls at midnight and trying to, schedule your content. It's just not practical. It's not impossible, but it's not practical. And much rather, build what we need to build and then travel and do it. And we're still traveling here anyway. We can go places for weeks at a time. So, yeah.
I love it. Okay. More questions? This one's fun. What is the most annoying thing your partner does for both of you? You first.
You first. I always go first.
Most annoying thing your partner does. Marcos is obsessed with Twitter. And I think the most annoying thing is that he's obsessed with Twitter. And I think it's funny because I'm obviously a creator, but I don't spend that much time consuming. But Marcos is a consumer.
No, it's because Twitter is different. I thought you were going to say something different. I didn't think you were going to say Twitter. There's nothing wrong with being on Twitter. I use Twitter for a lot of things. I use it for my news. I use it for, I don't know why I'm obsessed with Twitter, to be honest. I have nothing to say. I'm just going to move on.
Because he knows I'm right. So, yeah.
I like Twitter. Twitter's great. What was the question?
What's the most annoying thing your partner does?
The most annoying things that you do.
Things. Oh, there's multiple guys.
Things. I would say self-doubt is one. And then other than that, I would say her calling me out for me being on my phone when she's on her phone just as much, if not more. She swears she's not. She'll always be like, you're always on your phone, you're always on your phone. She's always on her phone too. If she's on her phone way more than me. And she's always like, you're on your phone so much. It just goes right back to the Twitter. You're like, what?
I told you guys it's Twitter. He admitted it at first.
That's my biggest pet peeve. That's it.
That's honestly like such an entrepreneur problem.
Yeah, it is hard to be. We've actually recently been something we've been talking about lately is that controlling our dopamine levels. Because we are both, something that we share is that we're both very interested in personal development, psychology, those kinds of things, self-help. And
optimizing our lives.
Yeah, and something that I've been learning about is, controlling your dopamine, especially as an entrepreneur, and especially when you wake up in the morning and stuff like that. So something I've been trying to do, and I was telling her about, is controlling my dopamine early in the morning. I won't use my phone when I wake up. For the past few weeks, I don't use my phone when I wake up. I'll just wake up, do hygiene, get a coffee, do my journal, and start working. And the nature of being, if you are doing creative work, if you have to create content, you have to write, you do your best work if you don't spike your dopamine levels with all these other things. Because as soon as you wake up and you look at your phone, it's gonna put like 5 notifications and start spiking your dopamine. You're gonna start looking at all of these different things. Next thing you know, your creativity for the morning is already shot. So something that I have been putting into place is no phone when I wake up. I don't even look at my phone until like 10 a.m. now, sometimes earlier, depending on when I finish my creative work. But I'll try to sit down and get at least like a 90-minute session of just creative work, content, bigger decisions and stuff like that. And then after that, I'll look at my phone. Because the thing is, dopamine is you're supposed to feel the dopamine as a rewarding chemical. Like, when you finish a 2-mile run, when you hit an achievement, you do something good. But if you're constantly on social media, you're going to get those dopamine levels spiked for no reason, and it's going to mess up your brain chemistry and in turn your productivity. And something that I struggled with is productivity. So fixing my productivity and dopamine levels has helped me a lot.
I love it. Okay. Marcos is very knowledgeable, by the way. Like, he knows all these, like, fun facts, and it's probably because he's always on Twitter. He's always on his phone.
Yep. She's always like, where'd you learn that? I don't know, the internet.
Okay. This one's spicy.
Oh boy.
How do y'all get intimate with each other aside from having sex?
Me?
Yeah. I went first last time.
I went first every time. I would say some things that we do no phone dinners. I think no phone dinners are great. I think communication is good for intimacy. For example, your love language is, what is it, word?
Word and... We talked about it before, yeah.
Mine is acts of service, physical touch. Anyway, good communication is good, especially when your love language is word. Another thing we do is almost every night we tell each other something we love about each other. We talk about things we're grateful for. I would say those are the big three that we do. Do you have any to add?
I was going to say, like, gratitude, definitely. I think our communication is really strong, where sometimes it's a little too strong, where we'll just say what's on our minds. We never, like, hold anything in or keep anything from each other, which is good and bad, because sometimes it's, like, no filter. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's really good because we're willing to, like, talk through and work through things. And I think people are probably like, oh, do you fight? Do you bicker? Things like that. And it's like, of course, like, we're human beings. We're, like, real people. But I think that our mission is so much bigger, where it's like, okay, like, even if we fight, it's like, how can we use this to get better? How can we use this disagreement to, like, get better and improve our relationship and see where the other person's coming from? Because I think looking at it through a curious lens rather than being, like, afraid, like, oh, should I not say that, or did I say something wrong? Rather be curious and say, like, why am I triggered right now? Or, like, how can I be better? Or how can I be a better partner?
Yeah, I agree.
So I would say that. Okay, I want to hear your answer for this one, because I don't think I know it. How did you both know that the other person was the one?
Oh, that's easy. So for me, growing up, and you can ask anyone that knows me closely, especially my family, is I've always been very quiet when it comes to, like, what's on my mind and just what I'm doing. And I've always been a pretty quiet person when it comes to, like, personal stuff. And I think she doesn't take no for an answer. So she broke me out of my shell. She always makes me say what's on my mind. She makes me more out of my bubble when I'm around my family. She improves who I am as a person. So I think that's kind of how I knew. Like, my family was like, oh, I remember something my mom said that stuck with me. It was, we love when you're here because whenever you're here, or I think it was my dad, whenever you're here, he's more social. And I was like, I guess that's a good point. Like, I'm just a better person to everybody around me when she's around. So that's kind of how I knew.
Aww. Don't make me cry.
Go ahead. What's yours? We have the opposite emotional spectrum. So when she's like, oh, don't make me cry. And I'm like, what?
I think I've seen him cry twice.
All right, go ahead.
Are you crying right now?
No, it's something mine.
Okay, sure. That's what he said. How did I know you were the one? Well, obviously the butterfly. Like, I knew that was a sign from something so much, like, greater than me. And I think I knew you were the one when it felt easy, when it felt, like, easy in the sense of, like, oh my God, like, there's no drama, there's no friction. And, I think that in my upbringing, I've come from, like, a lot of hardships, and I think that's what got me to where I am today. But I think my whole life I had naturally gravitated towards, like, drama and chaos. And for the first time, this felt so, like, out of the box, almost bizarre in the beginning, that I was like, there's no chaos. Like, it just feels normal. And it was the first sense of normalcy I had in my life at that time when I had not much normalcy. So it almost felt weird at first, and I think that's why I questioned it a lot in the beginning. And I think that's why I was asking for signs, because I was like, is this what it's supposed to feel like? Is it supposed to just feel like normal? Yeah. And just, like, flowing more so than, like, easy? Go ahead. You want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, like, it's just that's another part that we're polar opposites, where I think it's part of the way I grew up. I didn't really have any drama growing up. I've always, like, completely turn a cold shoulder to any bit of drama. I have a little sister, and she would cry, and I'd be like, whatever. Like, just cried. We don't care. No, I don't treat her like that, but I think
I'll treat my sister like that.
I've just been very no drama my whole life, and I also, oddly enough, and I always think about this, I never really had a death in my family growing up, so I think I never developed an emotional gene towards things. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it helps me when it comes to drama. You can ask her anytime there's drama, even on social media, I'm like, whatever. Like, people,
neutral.
like, hate comments, someone did this, someone's doing that, whatever. Like, it didn't affect me. So that's just how I've always been.
And I think that, like, another note is, like, that whatever helped me not get so hyper-fixated and overthink, because Marcos's favorite phrase is, it's just not that serious. When I'm like, oh my God, so hot-headed, like I'm ready to just throw punches, Marcos says,
wait, what?
It's not that serious.
Oh yeah, it's not that serious. It's almost never. This goes back to the nuance in the gray area. It's almost never that serious. It's very, well, another quote that stuck with me is that anxiety, 99% of anxiety is you're making up scenarios in their head that actually will never happen. Yeah. So 99% of situations, whatever you're, anxious about or worried about, it's not going to happen. You're going to be all right. And if it does, you deal with it when it gets there.
There we go. So I knew you were the one because it felt normal. And I think when he started telling me that I was asking for the bare minimum, made me be like, wow, good men do exist.
Yeah, I forgot where I said that, but it was funny.
I remember, because I remember it was when you were coming to pick me up on Long Island for our first date. And I said, you're going to drive an hour out of the way? Like, I'll just come take the train and I'll meet you.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, she was like so shocked by that. I'm like,
that he was going to come pick me up at my house.
I'm picking you up for a date. That's right. Isn't that not the bare minimum?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I guess chivalry's dead. So.
Okay. Next question. This is interesting. Well, we talked a lot about entrepreneurship, so I don't think we need to go back down that route, but how do you experiment with the masculine and feminine in your relationship?
Do you want to answer this?
I feel like I have more masculine energy when it comes to being like, when he said, like how you said before, like in business, sales, marketing, really like I'm super, super motivated. So I think I come with that kind of masculine energy. And I think that's for me in the masculine. I think you balance that out with like, you have to take a break. Like, let's just relax. Like, let's just do nothing. I don't think I knew what it meant to really relax before I met you. He knows how to relax. He knows how to chillax. I don't know. Like, I'm getting better, but he taught me a lot of that. And then my feminine, and you balance out with the masculine, I would say, is like when it comes to that like emotional piece. And I say like, when he has big successes, like he's not putting himself on a pedestal enough. And when you have big successes and success in trading or success in your business and getting clients and your podcast, and I don't know if we're name dropping here, so I'll let him if he wants to, but success in your life, I think I help you say like lean into that, lean into the emotion, into the feeling.
Yeah, you said it best. I have nothing to add to that.
Ooh, 11/11. What are we wishing for? Let's see. That's most of them. I'm going to see if any other good ones came in at 11/11. Okay, this one's good. Your favorite things about each other?
Favorite things about each other?
Yeah.
Am I going first?
Yeah.
Of course.
I went first before. You didn't even answer the last one.
Oh, yeah. My favorite thing. I should have prepared answers. What?
You said no script.
I know. My favorite things, though there's so many, but I'd have to pick something good for the podcast.
Aw, so cute.
So, yeah, generic answer. The media training.
You have to pick one.
I'm media
training. You were getting out of it?
No, I'm thinking about it.
Oh.
We're going to have to cut the space. My favorite things about you are that you don't take no for an answer. You
This is
always
true.
doesn't take no for an answer. For example, there was a hair on the camera lens, and she's like, oh, should I tell him? The producer, and I was like, whoa. I was like, no. She was like, and she started yelling at the producer. She just completely ignored what I said. I was like, or if we're at a restaurant and I order something and it's wrong, and I'm like, I'll just deal with it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. She will tell them anyway. She'll be like, oh, I think you messed up his order. I'm like, ugh, I get so embarrassed. So that's that. Definitely the organization. I would say definitely the willingness to travel. I think your motivation motivates me because I do get lazy. But probably the way you lean into the emotions, like the happy dances that you guys see on the story. I had to start doing happy dances naturally.
We happy dance together, guys, behind the scenes
Not that often.
on FaceTime.
We definitely do.
He's Dylan is shining out.
So that's another one. I mean, I could go on forever, but now it's your turn.
No. Okay. My favorite things about you are that he's so affectionate. You're so affectionate. I was not super affectionate before, and I think that you helped break that out of me. My mom always wants to hug me, and I'm just wasn't a big hugger. My best friend Giulia, she's a hugger. She always wants to hug. I'll hug her. But even with Marcos, his love language is physical touch and affection. And I think that was a huge barrier I had to break down, and I'm so happy that I did. And that's one thing I love about you. Another thing is how long-term you look at things. That's something that I wish I could be better at because I have a very short-term vision or a very short-term way of thinking where I'm what are we going to do the next 90 days? What are we going to do the next 6 months? And you think 10, 20 years. And I'm oh my God, I have no idea where I would even be in 10 years. I never think about that. And you're always thinking long-term. You are the kindest person in the world. I wish that I know I'm a good person, yes, and I appreciate all the love I get in my DMs, but I feel you are the kindest, sweetest person in the whole wide world, and I could use a little more of that in my life.
Yeah, gas me up.
But he really is he just has such a pure, genuine heart for your family, and that was huge. The way that you treated the way that you treat your family really stuck out to me, and how much you care about them, and your goals and your visions, so much of it is to give back to your family. And they're probably going to watch this and listen. But, I think that is, the kindest and, sweetest thing somebody could do. And I've learned a lot from you that, to just be more, genuine. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, two parts. So going back is to the long-term vision thing is most people overestimate, and I forget how that quote goes, but most people overestimate what they can do in a short amount of time, and they severely underestimate what they can do in a longer amount of time. So consistency and discipline is far more important than your motivation or your brand new idea. Try not to get shiny object syndrome. That's my golden nugget of the day. And then back to the second part, yeah. I guess it was just compliments, so there is nothing to say for the second part. But
well, also, too, you're so much more disciplined than me. I think people look at me and they think I'm, super disciplined, but, I definitely am, but I think that you are very, consistent and disciplined, and I'm disciplined and a little inconsistent. We balance each other out.
Yeah. Well, what you guys didn't know is that she really wanted to have a script for this. She loves a script, but what I was saying is that you guys would love for it to not be scripted because you get the real her.
Okay. Let me know. DM me and let me know.
I'm a big fan of no scripts. I'm a big fan of just sitting here and talking and being us. And the questions are a good guide, but scripts will, deter you from what you're actually thinking for the most part. So, agree to disagree on scripts.
There we go. Is there anything else you want to add? Do you want to name drop yourself? Do you want to?
No, I'm sure you'll tag me in the description or something.
I'm sure you'll go and find him and everything he does because that's what me and my friends would do.
What, detectives?
Yeah.
Yeah,
detective work.
There's a lot of detectives. No, this is cool. I I mean, we never really, we did for a while say that we were never going to do a reveal. Not because we didn't, not because we were afraid or anything like that. It was more so the privacy is power dynamic, and it allows us to focus more. But we don't really worry about that too much. Maybe we're inspired by the Hormozis.
Our favorite people ever.
Yeah, maybe we're inspired by the Hormozis or something. But we did like privacy is power, and we're still going to stick with the privacy is power. It's not like we're going to be making relationship content like consistently. But yeah, no, the questions were good. I like that a lot of people are asking about the whole entrepreneurship side while also asking about the relationship side. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there.
I agree, and that kind of makes me think about like where, are we going to do more podcasts? Are we going to do content? And I kind of feel the same way, where it's like, of course, it's a piece of my life, and this is something I want to touch upon too. Now it's coming to me is like, I think for a while I wanted to keep my relationship so separate from my business, and now I realize how much it's fueled my business, and I definitely don't think I would have got to where I am without being in this relationship because of how much you have supported me and how much you've helped me when like I wanted to give up and I wanted to just sit and sulk, and like you have helped me so much through so many difficult times in business because you're a more seasoned entrepreneur than I am, and you've been through more failures and hardships in your entrepreneurial journey. You've seen a lot, like you've networked with a lot of people in influencer space, in online course space, things like that. And I think you've been such a good sounding board, but also like voice of reason. And you know when to be a sounding board and you know when to be a voice of reason. And I don't know, I think, and I know that like love and relationship and that part of people's lives, whether it's platonic relationships, romantic relationships, have so much of effect on your business. And because it's like, the way that you are behind the scenes, the way that you are in your relationships, the way that you treat the people in your life are probably the way that you're treating customers and clients and followers and things like that. So that's kind of when I felt comfortable to say like, maybe it's time to start sharing. But I agree, I'm not expecting it to go in a direction of like, relationship content and stuff like that. Like I still want to post the content that I post, but I'm also open-minded, hearing the feedback, how people like this. So DM me, let me know, leave us a review.
Well, I think it's an interesting dynamic that there's not a lot of commentary on in our space, which is the entrepreneur-entrepreneur relationship. I think originally, and I think we both thought this is like, be an entrepreneur, you have to, focus on yourself, like grow yourself so that you can find someone else at your level and all that stuff. But I think there is a place for finding someone who's also interested in business or entrepreneurship or creation or creative and growing with them. For example, I would have never been successful without you. So I saw that having this relationship was actually a benefit or an asset towards, I hate to use that word, an asset towards growing myself and my business. And I think there was like a preconceived notion that having a relationship would actually mess me up because I would be losing focus. So I think the entrepreneur-entrepreneur relationship, I think it's becoming more popular now. For example, the Hormozis and how they were at nothing when they met. And I think that's how we were. So I think there's a place for it, and I do think it deserves a little bit more commentary on it. So that's kind of a big reason why I wanted to do the podcast, because a lot of people do have questions about how you balance and how a lot of these things, but what's not talked about is actually the balance comes from being together. We have balance because we're together and because we push each other and because we keep each other in check, and we talk about our days, and you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you don't want to be talking to your boyfriend or girlfriend and being like, oh yeah, I did nothing. Like that's embarrassing. So sometimes I'll literally sit there and I'll be like, man, she's like, I just know she's like going at it. She's been writing her website copy for 6 hours, and I'm sitting here doing nothing. Like I should probably do something. So I have something to talk about at the end of the day. We used to actually, this is something we were actually before, this brings us way back, before we started dating.
Pre-Baxter Blue?
Maybe like right after, or maybe even pre-Baxter Blue, we were talking and we were like, we're both in business, like we both want to succeed, but we have no friends that are also interested in this. Let's be accountability buddies. So we became accountability buddies, and I think that actually took it, it took us all the way to now where still to this day, we always talk about what we did, what we accomplished, what we're going to do. We really are still accountability buddies.
Yeah. And I think it's also one thing I want to touch upon too is like it's very like non-competitive.
Yeah.
And I think us being in completely different businesses, that's what it is. But then again, it goes back to those same values where like I could so see us. I've always wanted to go into business together because I think the dynamic in our relationship, the like push-pull is really good in our relationship that I know will be great in business, but I also think that needs to just kind of come naturally and come when we're at a phase where there's something that we're both willing to work towards. And I'm like willing to wait for that as well. But it's the same thing. Like, yes, we love the Hormozis and we look up to them a lot. And, you know, seeing that we can both be successful, but never feel like it's competitive, rather it feel like we're building and creating something together.
Yeah. Well, I always say that I actually prefer her to be ahead of me. It's fun. If I'm a billionaire, I want her to be at $1 billion plus one. So it's always, I don't really want to compete. It's more so just lifting each other up and always being at the same level and climbing up the pyramid per se together, climbing up the ladder together, and then we'll be at the top together and enjoy the fruits of our labor together. So.
Yes. Anything else? Thank you.
I'm good. That's it for me.
That's it. And that's a wrap. I should have planned an outro.
No outro needed.
Just
I don't do outros on mine.
Yeah, what's your podcast?
My podcast is The Culture Shift. You're gonna tag me.
Exposed.
Yeah. I don't do outros. I usually just vibe it out, rock it out, and then I hard cut it with a little outro music. I mean, come on, outro music right now.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for honestly creating a space for me to feel comfortable and open up and share my most prized possession. But no, really, like, help me really feel comfortable because I think when I first started my brand, you know, I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea where it would take me. I had no idea I would be creating on manifestation and spirituality and building a business, like so many different assets. Now you got me saying assets. So many different things that I would have never expected to be where I am today at this stage of my life. And I just feel really grateful for such like a loving and warm and welcoming community to feel like, you know what, my relationship is so good for business. Love is good for business. Love is good for life and living a beautiful and abundant life and manifesting your dream life. And this is mine. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.